So what happened is you'll be looking at me and we'll have a conversation.
Okay.
So what happened is that before we start our conversation, I will introduce you first.
Okay.
So you look at the camera just for a few seconds, and after I've done so, I turn to you and then we just start our conversation.
Okay.
And based on the subject issue about your work, and we will talk about women of the Middle East. And your passion. Great. So now, do I address you as Miss Rania Matar, or is that correct?
Rania Matar.
Rania Matar. Okay. Okay, great. I'll mention you as a foot. Let's see. Okay. Can I say that you're a photographer?
Of course, you sound photographer.
Yes, you're a photographer who has won numerous awards, including, let's see, this one I should mention, so that it looks.
Cultural Council Museum is a good one.
Yes.
Cultural Council, yeah.
Yes, this one, the Museum of Photography, and the Cultural Council. And this part is important. Okay. And also including the UNICEF Picture of the Year award, right?
I was not honorable mention.
Honorable. Oh, okay.
I wasn't a winner of it. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't say.
You could say it, but as long as you don't say it, you could say she got an honorable mention.
Okay, I'm gonna use it. Okay. Honorable mention. Okay, great. You ready?
And this is very important, actually, that the
Images
are part of the
Yes.
museums, and you could say the Museum of Fine Art, Boston, and all this. I don't know if you want to say that.
Oh, that's a lot to say. That's okay. Which this part here, you know.
Okay, two things. You could skip some of those. I would put this one that she was a finalist for
Okay.
with an exhibition, with a solo exhibition or something.
Finalist for the Distinguished Foster Award at the Institute of Contemporary Art, Boston. Is that correct?
Yes, and then you could say her images are part of the collection of
several
museums.
Okay.
And then I have two books.
And you have two. You didn't bring the books. Okay.
You know, we don't have one of them actually. We have one here. The other one we shipped, and they didn't arrive yet. So
Yes. Okay.
I should have brought one with me in the suitcase.
They're gonna show them the camera.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, because then people will know. That's okay. No problem. I'll tell them to get the material from the gallery here.
Yes.
Great. Two books. She has published two books, and it's called Ordinary Lives, right?
One of them is Ordinary Life, and one of them is A Girl in Her Room.
Okay.
And this was published now, 2012.
Okay.
Released 2012. This was 2009.
Okay. So you said to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wow, this is going to be challenging. This is not the first time. Yes, happened to me a few times where authors forgot to bring a book. That's okay.
You know, we shipped a bunch.
Okay, just give me one moment. Just give me one moment. I need to shift a little bit. Very nice. Very nice. Now you look even more classier. Oh, sorry.
Oh, but I'm going to be like this.
No.
I'm going to be mostly looking at you, so I should put mine here.
No, because you'll be looking at me.
Yeah.
So that's okay.
No, I know. I'm trying to see it's not the side that I like.
Oh, okay. No. You
Doesn't matter.
No, you don't have to. You can look at the camera if you want.
No. I look at you.
Yeah.
It's more natural.
So great. Okay, great. You ready? I'm ready, and you're ready. Okay, great. We're going to begin. I'll count 3 and then we'll begin. 1, 2, and 3. Hi, welcome to the National Critics' Choice Online News, and welcome to the Stienberg Review. I'm Robin Stienberg, and welcome to my show. And today we have a splendid photographer who is now here in Singapore, all the way from the United States, but she was raised in Lebanon, and she's none other than Miss Rania Matar, who was born and raised in Lebanon actually, and moved to the United States in 1984. And she has studied photography in New England School of Photography and main photographic workshops in Mexico. And Ms. Matar has actually won numerous awards, including 2011 Legacy Award at the Griffith Museum of Photography, and in 2007 and 2011 Massachusetts Cultural Council Artist Fellowship. And she won the first place at the New England Photographer Biennial and Women in Photography International, and the Prix de la Photographie Paris. And she has also been given honorable mentions in 2010 by UNICEF Picture of the Year Award, and also as well as 2010 Lens Cultural Exposure International, the Silver Eye Center for Photography Fellowship Center, and Photo Review as well. And she was also the finalist for the Distinguished Foster Award at the Institute of Contemporary Art in Boston. Her images have also been displayed in several museums worldwide, and she has also released 2 books, A Girl in Her Room, which is now available, and also Ordinary Lives, which was published in 2009. Now, to get her books, you can actually go to sanagallery.com here in Singapore if you are dropping by in Southeast Asia. That's right, that's www.sanagallery.com. Now, Ms. Rania Matar, you have a distinguished, bio, and I wish I was a photographer myself. And really, tell us, why do you choose, to take up photography, and how do you develop that passion?
Well, first, thanks for that intro. And I don't have a story like a lot of photographers have, that I picked up a camera at 12 and like magic was made. I started photography later, and I was actually trained as an architect, and with a lot of painting in college, and I worked as an architect. But then I had 4 kids, and I wanted really to take better pictures of my kids. So I started taking photo classes and workshops, and I fell in love with it. And it felt that somehow everything I had done in my background led me to be doing that. Like, I had grown up in a war in Lebanon. I had my architecture training, my being a woman and a mother, kind of all defined the work I ended up doing somehow. So I started it with my kids, and it kind of just grew from there. I could elaborate now, but this is coming in the next question. I'm from Lebanon, but I live in the US. After 2001, all the news coming about the Middle East were very negative. Also, when the war started in Iraq, all you would see on TV was like, it almost looks like you're watching a video game. It felt very abstracted to the American people. And the Middle East I knew was kind of very different from that, and I had lived in a war, and it's real. So in early 2000, I basically decided to kind of start telling a story of the Middle East. And I happened to go with a cousin of mine to a Palestinian refugee camp, and I realized that I had grown up so close to that camp, and I didn't know it existed. People lived like that, because during the Civil War, the circle of where I could go was very small, and I had never gone past that. So somehow, slowly I realized at some point I wasn't doing architecture anymore, I was a photographer. So that's kind of a long answer, a little bit.
Now, your pictures right now, that's now displayed right behind us and all over the gallery, at Sana Gallery itself. It's called Ordinary Lives and Women of the Middle East. Why do you choose that theme?
When I started photographing in the Middle East, I didn't realize originally that I was mainly photographing women. And somebody once asked me, like, where are the men in your photos? And I was so upset with myself, like, where are the men in my photos? So I decided to go back and photograph the men. And then I realized I'm doing work that's personal to me, and I need to follow my instinct and what I want to photograph, and I wanted to photograph the women and the children. I could relate to them. I felt like a lot of problems in the Middle East were kind of not made by women, but they were the one who was resilient, holding their homes together, raising their kids, and I had such respect and admiration for all of them. So originally the work started with photographing women in the refugee camps in Lebanon. And then I became interested in photographing the hijab, the headscarf, and the different meanings it had And because also when I live in the US, it was very unidimensional when you hear about the headscarf, that it was women who are oppressed or there were very stereotypes about how people viewed it. And I kind of wanted to tell the story that I was discovering in Lebanon. And then I started photographing women after the 2006 war. So this project became a book that was titled Ordinary Lives.
Wow, amazing.
But eventually the color work came from a different project and about teenagers, and this included, so it became, when we wanted to give a title, we included all under Ordinary Lives, Women of the Middle East.
Now, you spoke about women when they wear their headscarves, they have a different meaning. Could you give some examples?
You know, I'm only going to talk about what I saw and experienced in Lebanon.
Yes, of course.
Because it's very different in different countries. In Lebanon, the country is religious. So there are many religions, and with a large percentage of Christian. So women do not have to wear a headscarf in Lebanon. And when I grew up in Lebanon, I don't remember even seeing many women in Beirut itself wearing the headscarf. And it felt like after September 11, 2001, it slowly, maybe it was before, but at that point, it kind of became very common to see it, and also among younger girls. And when I started photographing it, I became fascinated about all the meanings it had. I think, of course, part of it is religious, but part of it was also a political statement. Part of it was fashion. So I thought it was very, I don't know, I became very interested in that. And then it became a lot like, you know, a girl would wear it and her friend would want to wear it. And
so when you took those pictures, the women in the Middle East, which is your theme, you also mentioned that earlier that part of it is also a political statement, you say. So do you feel Lebanon has changed since you have left? Has it changed the way it used to be?
It changed, but Lebanon is always shifting, and the whole Middle East is shifting. So.
Is it because of the Shiites and Sunni?
No, I mean, I don't want to get into that at all. That's not the point of my work, so it's not, and it's not something that, no, but maybe I changed also. I live in the United States now, so I learned to view Lebanon, I always see it as a Lebanese, and I understand the culture, and I can relate to the culture, but I could also see many changes through the eyes of an outsider. So that's why it kind of put me in that position where I could see when things are changing. But for me, the focus of it was not how to change, get into the politics of why it's changing, but how it affected people's lives, let's put it this way.
Now, speaking about the women over in the Middle East, especially Lebanon, the pictures that you've taken so far, what were the challenges that you faced when you took those pictures? Do you have their opinion, their permission to take the pictures?
Yeah, actually that's a good question. When I first went to the refugee camp, for example, I went the first time with a cousin of mine, and I decided I wanted to tell that story in photographs. And so I went back, but when I was by myself, I felt very tentative because I felt like at that point I was not an insider, people didn't know who I was. So I started teaming up with NGOs, non-governmental organizations, so they would get me the access of the families they worked with, and in return I would share some images that interested them for fundraising. And so at that point I was granted the access. I mean, and I think anywhere I went, I learned quickly that if I get the proper channels to get the right access, then I could photograph much more freely. And then once I get that, then it's up to me to earn people's trust. And then I went back. Now like I went back and revisited a lot of the families. So many of the families I had photographed for my first book, Ordinary Lives, and early, like even in 2005, I would go visit now, and I'm photographing them for my newer project, which is L'Enfant Femme, the woman child. And these women, these girls who were babies before, now are teenagers. So
amazing.
yeah, so the access is important, but then at some point you also have to treat people with respect and earn their trust. So I always share images with them. And
So, what sort of freedoms do the women in Lebanon have? Has that changed over the period of time since the last time you met them 5 years ago?
No, I think, again, Lebanon might be different than other Middle Eastern countries. So the women are, for the most part, pretty free to do it. I mean, and a lot of the women, even if they're wearing a headscarf or whatever, they go to college and they're educated and they work and they lead their families and they do volunteer work. So it's pretty fascinating like that. I mean, so for me, yeah, when I was focusing on the women, were more kind of on their daily lives. And the later work was focusing on the teenage girl quite a bit. So
Now, in your observation during your trip in Lebanon, how is the infrastructure of education for women and children? Are they made available to them in their daily lives?
Education is available to the same to women or men in Lebanon. Even, I mean, there's an economic level that could be different, like if you go to the camps or not, but there's no difference on who can access education. It's available to everybody.
Now, when you took these pictures,
Yeah.
what was the most memorable part of photography? Which picture do you actually admire most?
That's
Love
a tough
those.
one for me to answer because I have a story behind just about every one of them. Maybe the one that resonated for me the most was the one who actually became the cover of my first book, and it's called Barbie Girl. And I wish I had it to kind of show it now. And it was right after the 2006 war, and actually, can you pause it? I could grab a book or something, or we could just.
We could just carry on.
Okay. So basically, this was taken right after the 2006 war, and the buildings were getting demolished because they were pretty destroyed, but they didn't fall down to the ground. So there was a wrecking ball destroying the buildings, and it was incredible for me to see how resilient people were, because they would just be there waiting for the buildings to fall to the ground so they could go look for their stuff in the rubble. But it became kind of an activity where people were meeting each other and families. And I have this picture of the girl kind of going to somebody, one of her relatives, and her mom smiling at her, and she looks like a phoenix rising out of the rubble. And for me, this is very symbolic of the resilience of people in Lebanon, who always put their lives together year after whatever war, whatever hits them, and they keep going.
Now, was there any one point where, as you take the pictures in Lebanon, is there any one sad memory that you have? Is there any experience that you had that really stands your heart? Is there any one moment as you take pictures? Is there one experience that you saw that actually saddens you, depresses you the most?
No, I mean that's because the purpose of my work and how I approach it, I was really trying to see the beauty of people in the daily moments. And it took, especially after I went to the camps year after year, it got to a point where it wasn't anymore, I was looking at how beautiful these women were carrying on with their daily life, and this is what I wanted to focus on. So even if some of them may have a background of destruction, I'm focusing on people moving forward. So for me, I mean, it was depressing in the sense that this country went through so many issues, but what I find incredible was that people just keep going. And their dignity, their resilience, their hospitality towards me, all of them were humbling. So this is what I really focused on.
What are the key lessons that you've learned in your trip after you've taken all these beautiful pictures? Were there any 3 key lessons that you learned from?
Yeah, that people are all the same. I mean, and this is why I didn't want to get into just Shia, Sunni, and religion, because like I'm not even Muslim and it's not an issue. I was welcome in people's homes. I was photographing them. We were not people of different religion talking to each other. We're just people talking to each other. We're women, and like women are raising their kids like I'm raising my kids. We each do the best we can. I photograph teenager girls in the United States and in Lebanon, and they're all going through the same thing at the same time. So I wish we could all always remember that. You know, I try to keep reminding myself that you know.
Now, what is the identity for the women in Lebanon?
Identity.
Yes. What sort of identity do they view themselves? Do they view themselves as Lebanese, or do they view themselves as people?
Well, I hope they view themselves as Lebanese. I mean, they're all people, of course, but I would hope that people view themselves first as Lebanese and second as Christian, Muslim, Jews, or whatever religion they are. So, I mean, this is, if everybody just thought of themselves as Lebanese, maybe people won't be killing each other.
What do you hope for your fans and collectors learn from you? For all these pictures that you've taken, what is it that you hope that they will learn from you? What will be the one thing that you want them to learn?
I mean, I hope they enjoy the work. I hope they could view the work without any... I hope they view it with the same intention that I took the photo, like it came from... I hope they view the resilience of people. I want to say the beauty of people. I mean, I think a lot of the images people have to interpret them the way they want to, and I don't want to say too much about each photo because there's something that has to be interpreted by whoever looks at it. I hope they're moved by the images. I mean, I would say.
Now, moving forward, you know, what's next for you? Do you have any plans of going back to Lebanon to take more pictures?
You know, the last two projects I've been doing were photographing again kind of teenage girls. One was a girl in her room, and one was l'enfant femme. And these two projects, I photographed girls in both the United States and Lebanon. And again, this wasn't meant at all as a comparison, more as this is my identity. I'm Lebanese and now I'm American, so I wanted to photograph girls with these identities because this is what I relate to, what my daughter relates to. And this also came inspired by my daughter. So I'm still working on l'enfant femme, which I'm photographing the younger girl now, and kind of more about the girl and her posture and her body language. And I'm always including, of course, girls from the Middle East because I want to, and because that's who I am. And so I have kind of two projects in mind. One is I might start on boys. So I might start photographing a little bit, and I'm thinking of what angle to give it. And I might also photograph, again, in Lebanon and partly in the US. You know, I photographed teenage girls at that transition, and I want to photograph more now women, kind of like me, you know, because I feel like that's another transition as the kids are getting older.
Speaking about freedom of speech and democracy, do you see that the people in Lebanon aspire to be like the United States, where they have the freedom of speech? And
you know, out of all the Middle Eastern countries, Lebanon does have a freedom of speech and democracy in some crooked, bizarre way, but they do. I mean, it's, as long as it works within the constitution, like the president has to be a Maronite Christian, the prime minister a Sunni Muslim, and it goes down like that. But there is, it's much more open in that sense than other countries around it, I would say.
Great.
What I would aspire for Lebanon is that people could just live together and stop killing each other and stop getting influenced by everything that happens all around them.
Speaking about influence, I believe your pictures have influenced me personally, and it has influenced our fans here.
I hope so, thank you.
And we thank you for joining us here on our show, and sharing your artwork. And please, folks, please look out for her pictures and do place your order with Sun Art Gallery. And for more information, you can go to their website at www.sunartgallery.com. And also, she has 2 books that's been already released in the market, and you can also get it here. The 2 titles are The Girl in Her Room, as she mentioned, and also Ordinary Lives. Now before we go, tell us, why did you choose Sun Art Gallery? What made you decide that this is the gallery that has to host your work?
Well, I think it's a great idea that I love what Assad and Sun Art Gallery are doing to bring Middle Eastern art to Southeast Asia, and I believe there's no one who has done that in this area here. As far as I know, I live across the planet. So when they invited me to exhibit, it was a huge honor for me to have my work seen by a new audience, and to be part of this. To be part of Middle Eastern artists in this part of the world is incredible, and the artists they represent are all people I admire. So I'm very proud to be part of them.
Well, I'm proud of you as a woman, and being a champion for the Middle East as well. And folks, like I said, please do join me to congratulate Miss Rania Matar, and do visit the gallery here in Singapore, sunartgallery.com. Once again, thank you for joining me. I'm Robin Stienberg, and have a good week ahead here from the Stienberg Review. Goodbye. Thank you.
Was that okay?
Yeah, I think it was okay. I felt that I felt something was missing, but I didn't want to get into that.